day so satisfied, I'm on my way.
Take a straight and stronger course to the corner of your life. Make the White Queen run so fast, she hasn't got time to make you a wife. Cause it's time with your time, and this news is captured. For the Queen to use, move me on to any black square. Use me anytime you want. Just remember that the goal is for us all to capture all we want. Yeah. Don't surround yourself with yourself. Move on back to squares. Send an instant comment to me. Initial it with loving care. Yourself. Cause it's time with your time, and this news is captured. For the Queen to use. Cause it's time with your time, and this news is captured.
What if I told you the very foundations of modern identity, religion, race, nationhood, have been blended, distorted, and weaponized for power? What if the state of Israel, the deep state, and false flag operations all share a hidden origin point? And what if Trump didn't just lose power, but inherited a blueprint to take it all down, one layer at a time? What if this was always the final act? Welcome to the third and most controversial chapter of the greatest show on earth, Saving Israel for Last. Act 1. Race, Religion, and the Birth of Israel.
Israel was not a BC religion. The entire state of Israel today was started by the British Americans going through the United Nations and providing the money and the military backing to go in and just take the property and say, God gave us this property, so get out of here. We're taking it over. So much for God's chosen people.
Let's begin with the question no one wants to touch. Is Judaism a religion, an ethnicity, or a nationality? Because depending on the context, it's all three. When defending Israeli immigration policy, Judaism is an ethnic identity. When rejecting criticism, it's a religion. When defending military action, it's a people. When declaring global influence, it's a divine covenant. The definition shifts based on what needs to be defended. That's the manipulation, and any challenge is instantly labeled anti-Semitic. But if Islam is a religion and Christianity is a religion, why can't Judaism simply be just that, a faith? Why does it get to shapeshift between race, religion, and political shield? The answer lies in power. Zionism wasn't born out of scripture. It was born out of strategy. Most of its founders were secular. Theodor Herzl didn't write psalms, he wrote manifestos. Zionism was never about waiting for the Messiah. It was about forcing the hand of prophecy. After the Balfour Declaration in 1917, Lord Rothschild and British elites sought to carve out land for this new experiment. But it wasn't just Palestine that they considered. They considered Uganda, Argentina, and even parts of Texas. All of them rejected. Eventually, they chose Palestine, not because of a divine right, but because of strategic location. Oil routes, British mandates, religious sentiment. And what of the Palestinians? They weren't newcomers. Many trace back to ancient Israelites who remained in the region, later converting to Christianity or Islam. In fact, genetically, Palestinians often show stronger Levantine ancestry than the European Jews now claiming divine right. And yet, Israel used that very genetics argument to justify the law of return. But here's the paradox. Judaism is open to converts. You can become Jewish through ritual, but not DNA. But those converts didn't gain access to Jewish genetics. So which is it? It's a biopolitical paradox, one used to control immigration, power, and land. Now, enter Benjamin Netanyahu. Born in Tel Aviv in 1949, allegedly, with an early life filled with shadows. He moved to the US as a teen, attended high school in Pennsylvania, went to MIT, and gained US citizenship. But his social security file linked to 4 different names: Benjamin Netanyahu, Benjamin Netai, John J. Sullivan, and John J. Sullivan Jr. His credit record? Wiped. His file? Marked confidential. The kind of status reserved for CIA, FBI, IRS, or known terrorists. So the question becomes, was Netanyahu more than just a politician? Was he groomed, planted, protected? Because while he was coming of age, something else was being born. Act 2, Project Gladio, The Shadow Blueprint. To understand modern chaos, we must first understand manufactured chaos. In 1948, the same year Israel declared statehood, another project was quietly born from the ashes of World War II, one that would reshape the battlefield not with tanks, but with terror. Its name? Project Gladio. Gladio was NATO's covert stay-behind operation, designed to activate secret paramilitary units across Western Europe in case of Soviet invasion. But that was just the surface. What it became was something much darker. Gladio operatives were trained not just to resist, but to manipulate, to plant bombs, to frame enemies, to keep the public afraid and the elites in control. From the start, Gladio was backed by MI6 and the newly formed CIA. They weren't just supporting democracies, they were shaping them, engineering outcomes, funding right-wing factions. They were suppressing dissent. Arms were hidden across Europe. Operatives were trained in sabotage, propaganda, and psychological warfare. And in Italy, where the Communist Party was rising through legal democratic means, Gladio was activated. The result? Blood in the streets. Piazza Fontana bombing, 1969. Blamed on anarchists and later linked to Gladio. Bologna Massacre, 1980, 85 dead, blamed on communists, tied to far-right elements inside NATO. This was not defense. This was orchestration. A strategy of tension. Keep the people afraid, keep them divided, and always, always justify more surveillance, more control, more war. But Gladio wasn't just European. The tactics migrated, the blueprint expanded. And in the years to come, we'd see these same methods play out in the Middle East. For example, 9/11, ISIS, October 7th, and who perfected the formula? Netanyahu.
This operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat. For decades, the tyrants of Tehran have brazenly, openly called for Israel's destruction. 80 years ago, the Jewish people were the victims of a Holocaust perpetrated by the Nazi regime. Today, the Jewish state refuses to be a victim of a nuclear Holocaust perpetrated by the Iranian regime.
A man who studied in the West, rose through Mossad-linked networks, and governed Israel with the doctrine of fear, surveillance, and reactionary violence. He didn't just learn from Gladio, he iterated it. And while the world watched terror unfold, few noticed who benefited. Who always got more power? Who always got more funding? Q Post 916, saving Israel for last. Very specific reason not mentioned a single time. Because Israel wasn't just a nation, it was a keystone in the Gladio network. Proxy, a lab, a stage. And as this machinery of deception reached its peak, a new player stepped onto the scene. Act 3, Trump, Q, and the final move.